Hi guys, it's Mr. Abby from the Academy of Science and Citizenship and my science assistant, Hunter. So we're going to be redoing an experiment today that we did during our Arctic Habitat series, if you remember my blubber glove. But since I'm going to be rolling out a new way of us doing science from now on, I want to give you guys a good example of something that we've already done. Nice and easy. It's an experiment you can run at home, and if you don't run it at home, that's absolutely fine too. But when we do our science from now on, like I told you, we're going to want a pen, pencil, crayon. You're going to need a piece of paper or a notebook like I have. For this particular experiment, if you want to run it with us, you're going to need a bowl with some ice, some water. I'm using shaving cream. You can use Crisco, you can use conditioner, you can use a whole bunch of different things, anything that's kind of thicker than water, and that's going to be your blubber. And you're going to need a plastic bag or a glove if you have that. So, like we were talking about in Arctic habitats, a lot of those animals, they have a thick layer of blubber, right? Thick layer of blubber that keeps them warm even when they swim in cold water, stuff like whales, seals, polar bears. That's how they stay warm when they're getting in that cold water. So we're going to represent our Arctic cold water with a little bit of water, nice cold water, and our ice. I didn't mention that in our bowl we've got a whole bunch of ice. As long as it's cold, doesn't really matter. Now, Hunter, can you put your hand in the bowl and tell me how cold that water is? Darwin, I don't need your help. It's really cold. Okay, so if we're going to do our blubber glove, I'm going to have you go ahead and put your hand. Oops, only do the other hand so we know whether or not it's cold. We're going to put your hand in our protective glove to protect you from our blubber. Go ahead, stick your hand in that blubber. Oh, yeah, get it right nice right in there in that blubber. Oh, yeah. All right, now that we're covered in blubber, we're ready to go. Can you tell me how cold the water is now with your hand in the blubber glove? Can you feel the cold?
No.
Can't even feel the cold at all?
I can only feel it when I go through the blubber.
When you go through the blubber. So if you push through the blubber, you might feel a little cold, but is that blubber protecting your hand from the cold?
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead, stick it in there. How long can you keep your hand in that water with the blubber glove on?
Forever.
Forever, wow. So maybe that's why whales and everything, they can stay in that cold water in the Arctic all the time.
I'm going to take it out now.
Yeah, you got some shaving cream on there. If you want, go ahead and wash up, honey.
Yep.
Thank you for your science help.
Yep.
She's the best. So we did that experiment just the other day. We've seen it before. So I wanted us to take a moment to figure out how we're going to start taking notes for our science classes. So again, if you want to run the experiment with us, we've got all of our materials right here, a little bit of mushed up now. But when you take notes on experiments like these, or the one you saw in my Arctic video experiment, moving forward, we're going to start taking notes just like a scientist would. So you might see here, it might be kind of hard to see, that I wrote Blubber Glove Experiment. It's always good to have a title on your experiments. So when we take our notes on the experiments we work on over the coming weeks, we're not going to have to worry about a quiz this week or anything. I just want to show you how we're going to work on doing our notes for these experiments. That's what we're doing this one for. So you got your title, always really good to have, so you know what experiment you did. Then I recommend have materials. I'm going to write materials. You could even write stuff you need to do this experiment. I'm going to have to do this on crayon next time.
Yeah.
Materials. So what materials did we have? We had 2 plastic bags, right? 2 plastic bags. I used shaving cream. You don't have to use the same thing I did, but it works really well. Shaving cream. Very good. And then we're going to want a bowl of nice cold water. Bowl of cold water. Now, I realize we're going to have a hard time writing out a lot of these experiments, and that's something that we're going to work on. So the way I'm going to take notes on this experiment, and the way I would like you guys to start getting used to taking notes for me when we do our weekly experiments is I'm going to do a lot of pictures. So I'm going to do a nice bowl shape here. Nice bowl shape here. We're going to put some ice cubes in there so we can show that there's ice cubes in there. Now, when you put your hand in there right now, we can say that it's really cold. It's super cold. So that's how I'm going to represent that mine's cold. You could even put an arrow going down, and that shows that the temperature is down. It's really cold. Now, when I put my hand in my blubber glove, which I'm going to make by having two little boxes here. Two little boxes here. You see how my outside bag has got some stuff in it, and then my inside bag is just going to have my hand. If you have a hard time drawing fingers like me, don't feel bad. So you got my hand in that blubber glove. When I put my hand in the blubber glove, back in the bowl with the ice, see, I got my hand in the bag going into the bowl. I might write an arrow going up, or if I want to write labels, which I'd really like us to get in the habit of doing, I'm going to put not cold. It's not cold for my hand anymore. So that's going to be kind of how we're going to get in the habit of writing notes. We've got our cold little chilly lines, our shiver lines on the side. I put that arrow to show that it's cold, that temperature is down, it's really cold. Then I'm going to show that once I put my hand in my blubber glove and then I put that in the water, it's really not cold anymore for my hand. That temperature, I keep my own temperature, so the temperature of my hand's gone up since I've got it in that nice blubber glove. So there are other ways we could do stuff too. So if I wanted to do an experiment, say, where I showed, we're going to do a period later, we're going to do some simple machines. So if I did a ramp and I dropped a ball on the ramp, I might show that the ball is dropping with a little arrow there to show the ball's going down. When the ball is on the ramp, we could predict that the ball's going to roll down the ramp, right? Because that's what they do. And then maybe if I wanted to do experiment more, which is an experiment we're going to do, I could see with a taller ramp, do I think the ball is going to go further? I can make that arrow longer. Or I could show a distance away to show how far it goes. So that's kind of how we're going to start doing notes now. It might seem a little confusing right off the bat, but that's why I wanted to use an experiment that we've done before. We're going to show how our experiments work by taking really good science notes. Now you might have something like, you can put them in boxes too. Show step 1. You can have step 2. And then for step 3, we can show our results. So when we take notes during these classes, they don't have to be pretty. Lord knows mine aren't. But what we're going to do is we're just going to get in the habit of writing down notes, showing some pictures of what happened in our experiments. And we're going to get in the habit of sending Mr. Abby a picture of your notes. If you want to send me pictures of your experiments, that's even more awesome. But we're just going to get in the habit of writing notes on the experiments we make, which is why we're at my science couch over here, so we've got a little space to work. We're going to get in the habit of taking good notes on what we do during these experiments and showing what our results are. And when you get to the point when we're done with this series, you're going to have a notebook full of little experiments, how we did it, the materials that we used, and the results that we get. And I know this isn't the prettiest one. I'm going to try to start prepping you guys notes ahead of time, but I wanted to show you guys how I would like you guys to start writing your notes. So this is kind of a good example of how our notes should look by the time we're done. I'm going to have you guys send me some pictures. Maybe your parents can help you take a picture of your notepad. Send them to me on Dojo. If you guys have other ways that work better for you for sending me the pictures of your notes, that'll work out great. But we're just going to get in the habit of, we're going to do lots of cool experiments. But what I'm going to have from you guys, instead of doing quizzes every week, we're going to get in the habit of starting to do nice scientific notes. So not only we're going to learn lots of science over this series, and Darwin's going to take a drink of my water. Not only are we going to learn lots of science over the series, but we're going to learn how scientists take notes so that they can learn about science and how they can keep their results. Because sometimes we forget about how something worked out, so we can make our hypothesis, which is our guess on how the experiment's going to work out. We can write down how we did the experiment, and then we can write down the results so that other people could do the same experiment we did, and I can see how much you guys are paying attention, how much you guys are learning by the notes you're taking. And by the way, these notes, they're never going to be perfect right off the bat. These definitely aren't my best notes that I've ever taken, but we're going to get better as we do it because we're going to learn different ways of showing our notes. We're going to start writing in lots of labels. So another way we could do it is I could start writing like, this is a bowl. So I wrote a little line there saying that that's a bowl. I can put this arrow, I could say that that's the temperature. I'm just going to say temp for now, keep it short. But as we go on with taking our notes, we're going to get better at taking the notes. We're going to have different ideas on how to organize our notes, like these little boxes. When Mr. Abbey does them moving forward, they're going to be a little cleaner so you can see better what I'm doing. I'm thinking about using crayons. So if you don't have pencils and pens kicking around, that's absolutely fine. I honestly think that crayons are going to work better as far as being able to see these things on camera. So again, you don't have to absolutely run this exact experiment. I just wanted to show us how our new experiment series is going to start going. And I wanted to show you guys how we're going to start taking notes instead of doing quizzes, because sometimes science isn't all about right and wrong answers. As a matter of fact, my favorite kind of science isn't about right or wrong answers or doing quizzes. That's not what scientists do all day. What they do is they do experiments, ooh, that is cold, and then they take good notes on how their experiments go. Labels really help you know what's going on there, but taking good notes is how a scientist does most of their learning and how they get other scientists to try out their experiments too. And we know what we did was right, that we know what the answers that we get from our experiments are answers that we can use in the real world. You may not go around building yourself lots of blubber, but by doing a little blubber experiment like this, you might think like, oh, whales and polar bears, they can stay in the water for a long time. And it's one thing for Mr. Abbey to tell me they've got that layer of blubber. But it's another thing to stick your hand in a bowl of cold water when you knew it was super cold. And she's absolutely right. I can't even feel the cold water through my blubber glove. So I'm going to go wash up. You guys have an awesome weekend. And get ready with your pens, papers, notebooks, whatever you guys can get to write down your notes and take pictures of them for me. And we're going to start our science series starting Monday next week. And I'll have lots more fun experiments for us. I look forward to seeing all you guys' notes.